For decades, the name Steven Seagal has meant one thing: brutal, real-world combat. His entire legacy is built on a single bone-crunching principle: authenticity. He's the master of the real fight, a purist in a world of fakers. So, what happens when his world collides with one he might not even respect? A world of dazzling spectacle and so-called sports entertainment? Well, the unthinkable has happened. The next and most unpredictable chapter in the Seagal story isn't being written on a movie set. It's being forged in sweat and sacrifice inside a wrestling ring, and the person writing it is his own daughter. This is the incredible story of how Arissa LeBrock is stepping out of her father's massive shadow and the quiet, complex reaction of the stoic martial arts master to a world he never chose for his family, and a path nobody saw coming. The House of Seagal, a legacy forged in fire. To get just how big of a deal Arissa LeBrock's decision is, you have to understand the world she comes from. It's a world built and ruled by her father, Steven Seagal, a man who's much more than just an action star. In the late 80s and 90s, Seagal wasn't just an actor. He was a force of nature, a martial arts master who exploded onto the screen with a style of violence that felt terrifyingly real. His on-screen persona wasn't an act. It was a direct extension of his real-life skills. Seagal is a 7th Dan black belt in Aikido, a discipline he didn't just learn in a Hollywood dojo, but mastered in Japan, becoming the first foreigner to ever run an Aikido dojo in the country. This wasn't some flashy backstory for a movie poster. It was his identity. His films, from Above the Law to Under Siege, were showcases for this brutal efficiency. You wouldn't see any flashy dance-like choreography. You'd see wrist snaps, joint locks, and a cold, detached force that made audiences physically wince. His characters were untouchable, operating on a higher combat plane, men who didn't need to raise their voices because their hands could end any argument in a heartbeat. This obsession with realism became his brand. Seagal famously ripped into other action stars for using wires and stunt doubles, setting himself up as the only one keeping it real in Hollywood. His legacy wasn't just about movies, it was a philosophy, a belief that real martial arts were superior, that true strength was quiet and devastating, and that spectacle was just a cheap imitation of genuine skill. And that legacy's shadow is doubly long, because Arissa is also the daughter of Kelly LeBrock, the iconic screen goddess of the 1980s. As the star of classics like Weird Science and The Woman in Red, LeBrock was a different kind of Hollywood royalty, one built on charisma, beauty, and on-screen magnetism. So Arissa LeBrock was born at the intersection of two powerful legacies: the untouchable martial artist and the captivating movie star. She grew up with a father who defined himself by rejecting anything fake, and a mother who defined an era of Hollywood glamour. It's from inside this pressure cooker of expectations that Arissa had to forge her own identity. The pressure must have been immense, but she chose a path that, in many ways, challenges the very foundation of her father's world. The unexpected heir, a different kind of fight. For a while, it looked like Arissa was leaning towards her mother's world. She launched a successful career as a plus-size model, appearing in magazines and carving out her own space in the ruthless world of fashion. She was confident, graceful, and totally comfortable in the spotlight, but on her own terms. It seemed she was destined for a life on runways and in photo shoots, a universe away from the gritty dojos and high-stakes action films of her father. But under the surface, a different kind of fire was growing. Quietly, and mostly out of the public eye, Arissa was building her own combat credentials. She wasn't just the daughter of a martial artist. She was becoming one herself, throwing herself into the world of Brazilian jiu-jitsu. And this wasn't some casual hobby. BJJ, as it's known, is a grueling, highly technical martial art focused on grappling and submission holds. By every measure, it is a legitimate combat sport, respected around the globe for its raw effectiveness. This BJJ background is the critical link, the bridge between her father's world and the one she'd eventually choose. It proved the fighting spirit was in her blood and that she had the toughness for physical combat. She wasn't just a model trading on a family name. She was a legitimate fighter, and it was this fire, first lit on the BJJ mats, that led her to a decision that stunned the entertainment world. In late 2019, the news broke. Arissa LeBrock, the model daughter of Steven Seagal and Kelly LeBrock, had earned a multi-day tryout at the WWE Performance Center. To outsiders, it might have seemed like a weird publicity stunt. But for people in the know, this was a huge deal. The WWE is the global titan of pro wrestling, and their tryouts are famously brutal, designed to test every ounce of an athlete's physical stamina, mental toughness, and charisma. The big question was immediate and impossible to ignore. What happens when the daughter of a man who built his name on real combat enters the world of sports entertainment? The story was packed with conflict. Was this an act of rebellion, a tribute? Or was she trying to merge the two warring philosophies of her parents, the authentic combat of her father, and the grand performance of her mother? The wrestling world was buzzing. The potential was undeniable. Could Steven Seagal's daughter, with her unique mix of Hollywood pedigree and legit martial arts skill, actually make it in the punishing world of WWE? The dream derailed, disaster strikes. The WWE Performance Center is a pressure cooker. It's a place where famous names are either validated or exposed, and where the kids of legends are often judged harder than anyone else. This was Arissa's moment to prove she belonged, that she was more than just a last name. Her BJJ background gave her instant credibility that many other prospects just don't have. This was her chance to show the biggest wrestling company on the planet that she had the grit and the desire to embrace the grind. She was ready to prove all the doubters wrong. And then, in an instant, it all went wrong. The exact details have been kept private, but the result was a major setback. Shortly after her tryout, Arissa suffered a severe injury. All of the momentum she'd been building came to a screeching, heartbreaking halt. The dream was put on hold, shattered before it could really even start. Imagine the crushing weight of that moment. You make a life-changing decision to chase a wild dream, leaving a successful career behind. You put your body through the hardest test of your life, standing on the edge of a new beginning. And then, your own body gives out. For so many athletes, an injury at a moment like that is the end of the line. It's a story we've seen over and over again. The physical recovery is a long, painful battle of rehab, but it's the mental toll that can be so much worse. It's a time filled with doubt, frustration, and the constant haunting question of, what if? Arissa entered a dark period. She's been very open about it, admitting she hit what she described as rock bottom. The dream that had burned so brightly was now a source of pain, a constant reminder of what was lost. In a moment of incredible honesty, she later shared a powerful insight into her mindset during that time, saying, "I realized that I had become comfortable in the darkest, worst place in my life." Think about what that really means. It's a place where you've accepted defeat, where the pain of trying again seems worse than the pain of staying broken. The world, which had just started buzzing about her, went quiet. From the outside, it looked like the story was over. The action hero's daughter had tried to forge her own path, and it led to a dead end. But what no one knew was that a lifeline was about to appear from the most unexpected place. In the wrestling world, legacy is a powerful thing, and few names carry more weight than Rhodes. As Arissa was navigating the darkest time in her life, her phone rang. On the other end was Dustin Rhodes, a living legend of the squared circle. As the son of the iconic American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, and the brother of WWE superstar Cody Rhodes, Dustin knows better than anyone the pressure of being a second-generation performer. He knows what it's like to live in a giant's shadow and what it takes to carve out your own identity. Dustin had heard about Arissa's story, the promising tryout, the devastating injury, and the radio silence that followed. He saw that fire and untapped potential, and he made a decision that would change her life. He invited her to come to Austin, Texas, to train with him at his acclaimed Rhodes Wrestling Academy. It wasn't just an offer, it was a lifeline, a second chance when she thought they were all gone. This was the call she needed. As Arissa later said, "When I got the call from Dustin, I realized that I had become comfortable in the darkest, worst place in my life. It was time for me to give every ounce of passion within me to professional wrestling." She packed her bags and threw herself into the craft. Under Dustin's guidance, she began the tough process of rebuilding herself, not just physically but mentally. At the Rhodes Wrestling Academy, she wasn't just the daughter of movie stars or a model who knew BJJ. She was a wrestler in training, learning from one of the most respected minds in the business. Her BJJ background, once just an interesting note on a resume, now became the foundation of her in-ring style. Dustin taught her how to translate her knowledge of grappling and submissions into the unique language of pro wrestling, how to blend her legitimate combat skills with the showmanship and storytelling that defines the art form. She worked with personal trainers to rebuild her body, to get, as Dustin put it, all her ducks in a row, making sure she was ready for the brutal reality of the ring. Dustin Rhodes was blown away, not just by her natural talent, but by her relentless work ethic. He saw her progress and determination and became her biggest cheerleader. In an interview, he spoke about her with the pride of a coach who knows he's found someone special. "She's doing a great job, but this is only the beginning for her," he said with confidence. He wasn't just training a student, he was shaping a future star. After months of transformative training, her moment of truth finally arrived. The debut, A New Legacy, is born. In March 2023, the comeback story hit its first major peak. Arissa LeBrock graduated from the Rhodes Wrestling Academy and competed in its student showcase, her official public in-ring debut. This wasn't a massive arena under the bright lights of WWE television. It was an intimate setting, in front of a small but passionate crowd who understood the blood, sweat, and tears that went into that one moment. As she stepped through the ropes, a transformation was complete. She wasn't the daughter of a celebrity. She wasn't a model trying a new hobby. She wasn't a failed prospect whose dream had died. She was a survivor. She had overcome a serious injury, battled crushing self-doubt, and clawed her way out of the darkness. In that ring, she was finally, without a doubt, a professional wrestler. Her performance immediately got people talking. Her style was a fascinating mix of her family history, the raw, physical legitimacy of her father's martial arts, fused with a modern, athletic wrestling style. You could see the BJJ influence in her movement and her comfort on the mat. This wasn't someone just playing a character. This was an athlete showcasing her skills. The narrative began to shift almost right away. The conversation, once centered on her famous last name, was now focused on her. She wasn't just Steven Seagal's daughter anymore. She was Arissa LeBrock, the wrestler. Since that debut, she's been on a journey of steady growth on the independent circuit. This is where wrestlers pay their dues. It's a world of long car rides for little pay, performing in high school gyms for small but dedicated crowds. It's where you truly learn your craft, working with different opponents and finding your voice. She's building her career the right way, from the ground up, earning respect one match at a time. And the endorsement from her legendary mentor has sent ripples through the industry. When a veteran like Dustin Rhodes praises a new talent, people listen, and he hasn't been quiet. His words weren't just praise, they were a prophecy. In a quote that's been making the rounds, he said with total certainty, "Pretty soon the whole world's going to be talking about Arissa LeBrock." That's the kind of endorsement that opens doors, the kind that makes the people in charge, including at WWE, take a second look. So this brings us back to the big question: will Steven Seagal approve? On the one hand, the conflict seems obvious. The world of WWE, with its pre-planned stories and focus on spectacle, seems like the polar opposite of the real combat philosophy Seagal has lived by. It's easy to think he'd look down on it, seeing it as a corruption of the martial purity he values. But if you look deeper, a different picture emerges. What are the core principles of the martial arts spirit that Seagal himself represents? Discipline, resilience, respect, and an unbreakable will to overcome adversity. Arissa LeBrock's journey is a living, breathing example of every single one of those things. She faced a massive setback, a serious injury that would have made most people quit, and she refused to be defeated. She hit rock bottom and found the strength to claw her way back. She found a respected master, Dustin Rhodes, and humbled herself to his teachings. She has chosen to earn her spot the hard way on the grueling independent circuit, instead of trying to ride her family's coattails. So, while Steven Seagal may never be front row at WrestleMania, it's hard to believe he wouldn't feel immense pride in the warrior his daughter has become. She's proven she has the heart of a fighter, a spirit forged not on a movie set, but through real pain, real sacrifice, and real perseverance. She isn't just coasting on her father's legacy, she's honoring it in the most unexpected way possible, by proving that the spirit of a martial artist can shine in any arena. Arissa LeBrock's journey proves that legacy isn't just what you're given, it's what you build. Born into Hollywood royalty, she chose the grit and grind of the wrestling ring. She's a captivating blend of her mother's star power and her father's fighting prowess, but she's making it into something entirely her own. The wrestling world has a new bloodline to watch, and her story is just getting started. What do you think? Does Arissa's hard-fought journey earn her legendary father's respect? And will her unique background and undeniable grit eventually lead her back to the global stage of WWE? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below.